All right. Good morning. Shalom, everyone. I've got my dad asleep doing his breathing treatment, so I thought I would go ahead and start into the next chapter of Truth and Lies about the Jehovah's Witness, okay? So this chapter is Pagan Roots of the IBSA and WBTS. And again, I will leave the links in the description below. God's Kingdom Rule Book, page 104. Okay, so you've got the cross and crown emblem right here. Okay, and then this is Zion's Watchtower, herald of Christ's presence here. Okay, so the Bible students cherished the cross and crown emblem starting in the late 1920s. However, Christ's followers were progressively enlightened regarding the use of the cross. Reflecting on the 1928 assembly held in Detroit, Michigan, USA, Brother Grant Suter, who later served on the governing body, recalled, "At the assembly, the cross and crown emblems were shown to be not only unnecessary but objectionable. Over the next few years, more enlightenment followed. It was clear that the cross has no place in worship that is pure and spiritually clean." Once again, we see the society trying to diminish and rewrite history and trying to say that it was just a cross and crown. Not one follower today, i.e. modern-day Jehovah's Witness, would have the first clue as to the actual origin of this, nor what it represented and what place did it serve within the society and corporation for nearly 40 years, worn by such high-ranking officials such as Russell himself. Let us first look at the origins of Russell himself. We know he was of Scottish and Irish descent, but before moving to America, Pennsylvania, he lived in Scotland. Now, this article is not trying to prove whether Russell was a Freemason or not. The fact remains that it can neither be disproved. So let's take a look at who Christ was using as his choice and his faithful and perhaps not so discreet slave. Let us use terms, as we so often see, that befits the organization, such as conclusive proof, with certainty that it cannot be anything else but the truth, as it's as if Christ had said it himself in our findings. Let's look at the imagery to see if Christ would have really chosen such a person who had blatant connections with Freemasonry, or indeed, as is available today, an honorary Freemason. The emblem shown in page 177 on top left was and still is widely used by Scottish Rite Freemasonry. The emblem shown on the top right on page 177 was of the first printed Zion's Watchtower in 1989. Okay, let me take you back to page 177. This is page 177, so I'll have to ask Terry. Maybe he's referring to a different book, possibly. Okay. I'm not sure if it's this emblem here. Okay. On top left was and still widely used by Scottish Rite Freemasonry. Okay, so it was of the first printed Zion's Watchtower in 180. Maybe that's 1989. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, this should, I believe it's 1989. Interestingly, before the state, maybe 1889. Okay. Before the date of 1891, many Watchtower articles were published from 1880, but none of them carried this symbol. The symbol being used extensively up until 1931, long after Christ had appointed his faithful and discreet slave to take care of all his earthly belongings. So why suddenly should Russell decide to print articles of the Watchtower with this Freemason symbol? Could it be simply that he had just become a 33rd degree Freemason and now had the right to use the symbol as he chose to promote the cause? It's also worthy to note that the image was not only upheld on their published print, but also that of wearing the same image on a lapel badge. Or did he just think that it was colorful and a pretty shape, thought it would look beautiful on the front of published magazines? Or maybe worse than either of those two options above, he had no idea. I will let the reader decide before I do so. But before I do so, now consider the image on the same article on the right-hand side. Okay, it's got to be this right here. Okay. Okay. This is the lowest degree of Freemasonry. Now the reader can decide, wait, was there another symbol held slightly deeper? Symbol here. Consider. A candidate is brought to light. Let there be light is the motto of the craft. It is one of the key words of Masonry. It is very ancient, hearkening back to the Sanskrit ruk, meaning shine. The Greeks had look preserved in many English words, especially such as have leuco in their makeup, as in I can't pronounce that, excuse me, a white blood corpuscle. The Latins had luck or lux in various forms. Whence are light, lucid, luminous, luminate, lunar, lightning, etc. The word means bright, clear, shining, and it is associated in its use with the sun, moon, fire, etc. By inevitable association, the word came into metaphorical use to mean the coming of truth and knowledge into the mind. When a candidate ceases to be ignorant of Masonry, when through initiation the truths of Masonry have found entrance into his mind, he is said to be enlightened in the Masonic sense. Now the reader can decide, wait, okay, Rosicrucian order. Was this the order for which Russell belonged? Could we find a connection to such imagery? Okay. Let me grab this link here. From a brief look at the various orders, one theme appears to run through their images that of Egypt. Now, where can we find both an interest with Egypt within Russell's teachings and possibly imagery depicting such belief and interest? Surely not. Surely there would be no such connection. Right here, across no less than 5 books by Russell with the exact image of above. The very day of vengeance. Okay, Egypt. Okay, a helping hand for Bible students. Okay, I'm going to grab all of these links here. And finally, where could we find a fascination with Egypt within Russell's writings? Surely we could not find a book that would give us such light and food at this time. Well, here it is, named The Divine Plan of the Ages. In order to see what pagan influence these writings had, please refer back to the chapter called 607 BCE. In this chapter, we discovered how Russell was fascinated with the Great Pyramid of Giza and how the pyramid calculations for the corridors would lead him to calculate, firstly, the coming of Christ visibly in 1914, which was later changed, then changed again. If this isn't an organization steeped in paganism, I honestly don't know what is. Now, surely we can move on. Surely there are no other connections to Freemasonry. Can we not just move on? Not yet. Now, at this point, I am literally on the edge of my seat for my finale. The Freemason Charles Taze Russell was buried in Watchtower grounds in 1916. There is a rumor surrounding his death that he was assassinated by the early Freemasonry fraternity. But to be honest, I cannot find any proof of this. And for the purpose of at least trying to convey an honest opinion, I will leave that there. But he did die on Halloween night, October 31st, 1916. Anyway, the finale. Please input the following coordinates into Google Earth. If you use the 3D option and zoom in, the first thing you will notice is that the buildings within the vicinity are called the Masonic Childrens Learning Centre. This land is owned by the Watchtower and Bible Tract Society. I'm going to put this in the description as well. Oh, and here's a picture of it. Okay. Now zoom back out and you will notice something odd. A structure that the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society wishes did not exist to this day as testimony that Russell was a complete and utter wacko and that there was no way he was chosen by Christ. Now you will see this structure on plain view. No, this is not some Martian landscape or some futuristic lunar endeavor by man. This is the great and late Charles Russell's grave site. This is a structure with the same Masonic symbols as highlighted previously and as described with the Rosicrucian order fascination with Egypt, modeled on the Great Pyramid of Giza. Honestly, you could not make this up. And I've already showed you pictures of the pyramid at where he's buried. Don't believe me? Here is a picture, and see, here it is, and here's the location just on the road called Masonic Way. It just gets better, doesn't it? See, there it is, right there. I must point out, however, that this stone structure was erected after Russell's burial. That's important, after he was buried, as in not before. The fact remains that WBTS owned the land. He is buried there under the umbrella of a great Masonic symbol. Okay, so here's the pictures. And see, there's that symbol that we just looked at. That's on their publications. And here he is from the rear of his grave looking at the pyramid. See, here's his tombstone looking at the pyramid. Okay. This says, we visited the marble works and there watched the workmen slowly but surely chisel out the monument to be erected as a memorial to the society. The Watchtower Society burial lots in Rosemont United Cemeteries, 5 miles due north of Pittsburgh City, contain ample grave space for all the members of the Bethel family and the pilgrims and their wives, in all more than 275 adult graves. In the exact center of the Bethel lot will be erected diagonally the pyramid-shaped monument as designed by Brother Bonnet and accepted by Brother Russell as the most fitting emblem for an enduring monument on the Society's burial space. The size of this structure is 9 feet across the base, and its apex stone is exactly 7 feet above the ground surface level. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to surmise with a known phrase slightly later of the Society, used so many countless times over the years to state with certainty, without a doubt, to prove one of their prophetic teachings, i.e., 1914. But before doing so, let me give the counter from a tour that Russell gave himself in 1913, nonetheless in a Masonic hall in San Francisco. It is obvious that even during that era, many people thought he was a Freemason and would have had concerns over the true religion being associated with such occult practices. Although I have never been a Mason, sometimes I do seem to be the same. Something I do seems to be the same as Masons do. I don't know what it is, but they often give me all kinds of grips, and I give them back. Then I tell them I don't know anything about it, except just a few grips that have come to me naturally. In the words of Shakespeare, the lady doth protest too much. Still not convinced? Please see an excerpt from a talk that C.T. Russell gave in 1913 under the subject of the Temple of God. Is a discourse by Pastor Russell reported verbatim on pages 120 to 127. Russell's own comments on this very subject should settle the speculation once and for all. Was he a Mason? I have uncovered through another website a document which in all honesty is obviously not the original document. However, examination of the document and when reading in line with current literature by Russell during these years leads me to conclusive proof that the discourse material is true. You can call it personal opinion if you wish. However, when considered with all of the above relevant material, I consider the contents in line with C.T. Russell being a Mason, and here it is. Okay. And it says, I am very glad to have this particular opportunity of saying a word about some of the things in which we agree with our Masonic friends, because we are speaking in a building dedicated to Masonry. And we are and we also are Masons. I am a Freemason. I am a free and accepted Mason, if I may carry the matter to its full length, because that is what our Masonic brethren like to tell us, that they are free and accepted Masons. That is their style of putting it. Now, I am a free and accepted Mason. I trust we all are, but not just after the style of our Masonic brethren. We have no quarrel with them. I am not going to say a word against Freemasons. In fact, some of my very dear friends are Masons, and I can appreciate that there are certain very precious truths that are held in part by our Masonic friends. I have talked to them at times, and they have said, "How do you know about all of these things?" We thought nobody knew anything about these things except those who had access to our very highest logic. Okay, Temple of God starts on page 914 of this document. Reading the start of the discourse is very interesting in how Russell built his talk up surrounding other church denominations and calling them friends. We also see reference to the Masonic Great Pyramid of Giza multiple times by Russell, a frequent teaching of his 1914 calculation doctrine. Okay, this is page 915. I am very glad to have this particular opportunity of saying a word about some of the things in which we agree with our Masonic. Okay. That's what this is. Okay, so I won't read this again. Okay. So finally, in summary, brothers and sisters, we finally found the source of the cult, a Freemason. To coin a phrase of the WBTS, it's as if Jehovah has whispered to us himself, there is no chance in hell that Christ would appoint this man as his faithful and discreet slave, let alone even allow him to get baptized. We also often hear from the WBTS, whom else proclaims the so-called divine name of Jehovah on this planet as part of the good news? Well, Freemasons do. Where did Freemasonry come from? Okay. Kabbalah, Babylon. Okay. Mission statement of the Rosicrucian Order, our order, often referred to by members as the Society, was founded in 1907 by Sylvester C. Gould and George Winslow Pulmer, both prominent Freemasons and Rosicrucians. After Gould's death in 1909, Plummer assumed leadership of the society and immediately set about the reconstituting the society based upon the broadest non-judgmental principles of the Rosicrucian art, which would be open to all true seekers. The SRIA was incorporated on September 8, 1912. Our organization became truly inclusive in 1916 when the society began to admit women into its ranks. We admit both men and women on a fully equal basis and do not insist upon any prior membership of any other organization, let it be Masonic or Rosicrucian. We do not restrict our members from joining or remaining as members of any other Rosicrucian body. Tolerance is our maxim. Okay, so we will go ahead and close out there because that's the end of this chapter. So I'll have all the links in the description below. In the next video, we will be going over the chapter Deuteronomy 18:20 through 22 and 13:1 through 3. All right, guys, with that, I will just close out and bid everyone blessings and shalom.